It was 2:14 a.m. when my phone lit up beside me, its glow slicing through the stillness of the room. Half asleep, I reached for it, expecting a message from my husband. Maybe he'd locked himself out again, maybe it was something urgent from work. But when I saw the sender's name, my chest tightened. Derek Walsh. My husband. And the message? He's mine now. He's occupied. Don't wait up. V. For a few seconds, I couldn't process what I was reading. The words were short, sharp, deliberate. Someone had used my husband's phone to humiliate me at 2 a.m. And that someone had signed it with just one letter, V. I knew exactly who she was. Victoria Ashford, Derek's boss at Meridian Pharmaceuticals. The woman he once described as demanding but brilliant. She had just declared ownership of my husband, through his own device. It wasn't an accident. It was a message meant to sting, to show dominance, to make sure I knew she'd won. But she didn't win. She didn't realize that one text, sent in confidence and cruelty, would become the very tool I'd use to destroy her career, her influence, and everything she'd spent years protecting. My name is Natalie Chen, I'm 34 years old, and that message marked the end of my marriage, and the beginning of my calm, calculated revenge. Before I take you through what really happened that night, I want you to do something for me. If you've ever been blindsided by betrayal. If you've ever looked at a text that changed your life in an instant. Hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Because this story isn't just about a cheating husband or a power-hungry boss. It's about how far someone will go to reclaim their dignity when someone else tries to take it away. Victoria thought she was the hunter. She thought sending that message at 2 a.m. would leave me broken. But what she didn't realize was simple. I'd already been gathering the pieces of her downfall. And by sunrise, she'd regret ever touching my life. Before that night, if you'd asked anyone about us, they'd have said we were the steady kind of couple, the ones who made it look easy. Derek and I met 9 years ago at a wedding in Costa Rica. He was the best man, I was the maid of honor. He spilled champagne on my dress during the reception, and we laughed until the band stopped playing. That was Derek, funny, spontaneous, the kind of man who made ordinary moments feel like celebrations. I was the opposite. Focused. Practical. I built my career as a trademark attorney brick by brick, long hours, quiet weekends, deadlines stacked higher than laundry. He used to say, "You keep our world standing, Nat. I just make sure it doesn't get boring." And for 7 years, that balance worked. We bought a 1920s bungalow in Denver, spent weekends fixing it up. We traveled, Tokyo, Lisbon, Maui. Every memory was another promise that our life together meant something solid. We talked about having kids, when the timing was right. We laughed at how grown-up that sounded. Looking back now, I can see the small cracks forming, but at the time, I thought they were normal. The missed dinners. The late returns from client meetings. The way his phone started living face down on the counter. Marriage teaches you to overlook things, to choose peace instead of confrontation. I chose peace a lot. It wasn't all bad. Even near the end, there were moments that felt like us, the way he'd hum in the shower, or how he'd text me made it home safe after every trip. But love can't survive on habit alone. Not when one person starts rewriting the story without telling the other. I didn't know it yet, but the man who once danced barefoot with me on a beach was slowly slipping away, into someone else's orbit. And the woman pulling him there was already calculating her next move. The change started quietly. The kind you only recognize when it's already taken root. It began 18 months before that text. Derek had just accepted a new position, regional sales director at Meridian Pharmaceuticals. It was a big step up, a team under him, a corner office, and a boss who everyone described with the same 2 words, driven and uncompromising. Her name was Victoria Ashford, Vice President of Sales and Strategy. 41, commanding, with a resume that made executives nervous and an air that told everyone she belonged at the top. The first time I met her was at Meridian's annual gala. She wore a burgundy gown that probably cost more than our mortgage payment, her smile sharp but deliberate. When she spoke, people listened, even Derek. She approached us holding 2 glasses of champagne. "You must be Natalie," she said, studying me for a second too long. "Derek's been an incredible addition to our leadership team. You're lucky to have him." Her hand rested lightly on his shoulder as she smiled. It seemed harmless, until I caught the way Derek's posture shifted, a subtle mix of pride and discomfort. After that night, I started hearing her name more often. "Victoria wants the reports finished tonight. Victoria thinks I should sharpen my presentation style. Victoria said I have potential beyond sales." At first, I was happy for him. He'd always wanted a mentor, someone who could push him further. But soon, the mentorship looked less like guidance and more like possession. Derek started dressing differently, tailored suits, new cufflinks, expensive shoes. He said, "She took me to her tailor. Said I need the right image if I'm going to represent the company." His hours grew longer, his phone busier, his eyes distant even when he was home. One night, while reheating the dinner I'd saved, he scrolled through messages with a half-smile that wasn't meant for me. It's strange how quickly love can turn into observation, how the person you know best can begin to feel like a stranger performing someone else's script. That was the start. Not a fight, not a confession, just small shifts that told a larger story waiting to reveal itself. At first, the changes were small enough to excuse. That's how it usually starts. One late night becomes 2, then 3. Eventually, the silence in your home starts feeling louder than any argument could. 3 months into Derek's new role, his schedule became unpredictable. Big product launch, he'd text at 9 p.m., "Victoria needs the team to prep for the investor call." I'd leave his dinner covered, reheating it hours later when he finally came home, tie loosened, smelling like hotel lobby perfume that wasn't mine. By month 5, his wardrobe was unrecognizable. Crisp suits, tailored jackets, luxury watches that didn't fit our budget. When I asked, he said Victoria insisted on it, executive presence matters. I laughed then, thinking he was exaggerating. But when a woman controls how a man dresses, she's already controlling more than his schedule. The business trips multiplied. Chicago, Boston, San Francisco. Always led by Victoria. Always first-class accommodations, company policy, he'd claim. His expense reports showed dinners for 2, room upgrades, minibar charges past midnight. I wanted to believe they were just working late. I wanted to believe anything. By month 9, the distance between us felt permanent. He changed his phone passcode, something we'd never needed. Calls came at strange hours, and he'd step into the garage to answer them. When I'd walk into a room, he'd angle the screen away just slightly, enough to make me wonder what I wasn't supposed to see. The intimacy disappeared next. He was too tired, too stressed, too focused on work. Yet he was never too tired to respond instantly to her late-night messages. A quiet kind of loneliness took hold in our home. I'd wake up to the sound of him showering before dawn, preparing for another day that didn't seem to include me. One morning, I found a small velvet jewelry box tucked inside his briefcase. Inside it was a bracelet, expensive, delicate, engraved with initials that weren't mine. When I asked, he said it was a corporate gift for a retiring colleague. I didn't argue. I just nodded, smiled, and added that moment to the growing collection of doubts I was keeping to myself. Because by then, I'd learned something valuable. When people start lying, they often reveal the truth in the way they defend themselves. And Derek was defending far more than his career. The moment everything changed wasn't explosive. It came disguised as a casual brunch conversation. My best friend Jenna, who worked in HR for a rival pharmaceutical company, stirred her coffee and asked, almost carelessly, "Isn't your husband working under a woman named Victoria Ashford?" I nodded. His boss, yes. Why? Jenna hesitated before speaking. Someone mentioned her at a conference last week. Word is, she's complicated. 3 divorces, all tied to men who worked under her. A few quiet settlements, if the rumors are true. She said it lightly, but something in her tone told me it wasn't gossip, it was warning. That night, Derek texted again, running late. Victoria needs projections ready before tomorrow's call. While he worked late, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, researching her name. 4 companies in 12 years. Each departure described with vague language, pursuing new opportunities, mutual decision to transition. I'd written enough corporate statements as an attorney to know what those phrases really meant, negotiated exits and buried scandals. That's when clarity replaced confusion. If I confronted Derek then, he'd twist it. He was a salesman, polished, persuasive, trained to turn blame into charm. I needed more than suspicion. I needed proof. Through a legal colleague, I was referred to Marcus Rivera, a private investigator who'd once worked as a forensic accountant for federal cases. His office felt more like a data lab than a detective's den, screens everywhere, folders labeled with precision, the air thick with focus. I'm not looking for speculation, I told him. I want documentation, facts that can't be denied. Marcus studied me, then nodded. Give me 6 weeks. You'll have answers. The next month became a lesson in patience. He sent updates weekly. Each one pulled another thread from the life I thought I knew. Week 1, unexplained charges, restaurants Derek never mentioned, hotel suites billed to the company on weekends. Week 2, a bracelet purchased from a luxury retailer. The same bracelet I'd found in his briefcase. Week 3, surveillance photos, Derek and Victoria walking out of a restaurant, his hand resting lightly on her back. Week 4, time-stamped footage of them entering her apartment building separately and leaving together hours later. By week 6, Marcus had compiled a file thick enough to silence doubt. Not just about Derek, but about her. He uncovered sealed court records tied to Victoria's former employers and found 2 other women whose marriages had collapsed in eerily similar ways. Each story ended the same, an ambitious subordinate, a destroyed marriage, and a quiet settlement. When Marcus handed me the full report, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just thanked him, paid his fee, and placed the file inside a locked cabinet. I wasn't ready to confront Derek yet. I was waiting for the moment she would prove, with her own arrogance, that she believed herself untouchable. And when that moment came, she wouldn't just lose her lover. She'd lose the empire she'd built on other people's silence. It happened on a Thursday night in late October. Derek had texted earlier that evening, might be late, quarterly projections are a mess. Don't wait up. By then, messages like that were routine. I brushed my teeth, set the alarm, and went to bed alone. At 2:14 a.m., the phone buzzed. The sound was sharp, insistent, almost intentional. I reached for it without thinking, and froze when I saw his name on the screen. Derek Walsh. For a split second, I feared something had happened to him. But when I opened the message, fear turned into something colder. He's mine now. He's occupied. Don't wait up. V. My eyes didn't move for nearly a minute. The message came from his phone, but the signature said everything. Victoria. She wasn't hiding. She was claiming. That message wasn't about love, it was about power. She wanted me to know I'd lost. She wanted a reaction. Instead, I gave her something she didn't expect. I typed 7 words. Keep him. We're done. Then I pressed send and set the phone face down. For the first time in months, I felt steady. The storm had already passed, I was just standing in its aftermath, quiet and unshaken. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just waited. 20 minutes later, headlights swept across my living room window. 2 car doors slammed. Through the peephole, I saw them, Derek, pale, anxious, and Victoria beside him, immaculate, smug, victorious. She wanted an audience for her triumph. When I opened the door, she smiled as if she were stepping into a meeting she'd already won. Derek looked terrified. I didn't say a word. I just stepped aside and said, "Come in." She thought she was entering my home to show me what she'd taken. What she didn't know was that she'd just delivered herself to the beginning of her downfall. When I opened the door, the night air followed them in, cold, tense, electric. Derek stood there in his suit, face pale, eyes darting between us like he couldn't decide which world he belonged to. Beside him, Victoria looked untouched by the hour. Her blouse was flawless, her posture perfect, her confidence almost theatrical. No apology. No hesitation. Just that small, victorious smile. "Natalie," she said smoothly, "I think we should talk." I studied her for a moment, then stepped aside. "By all means." They entered like guests arriving for dinner, not intruders in the wreckage of a marriage. Derek started talking before the door even closed. His words tumbled out, uneven, rehearsed. "Natalie, this isn't what you think. We were working late, things got out of hand. It was a mistake, just once. We can fix this." His voice cracked halfway through the sentence. I turned to him, calm. "You used to be better at sales pitches, Derek." He stopped talking. Victoria crossed her arms. "You're understandably upset," she said, her tone clipped but professional. "But what happens between two adults is none of your concern anymore." I took a step closer to her. "You used his phone to text me at 2 a.m. You typed those words yourself, didn't you?" Her expression didn't change, but her silence confirmed what I already knew. Derek looked at her, confused. "Wait, you sent that?" She ignored him, keeping her eyes on me. "You're angry, I get it. But let's not pretend your marriage was perfect. Derek and I made choices." I nodded slowly. "You've made quite a few of those, haven't you?" For the first time, something flickered across her face, uncertainty. It lasted a second, but I saw it. I leaned forward, my voice steady. "How many others have received messages like mine, Victoria? How many wives?" The air thickened. Derek blinked, lost. "What are you talking about?" She said nothing. Her composure cracked, just slightly. I gestured toward the living room. "Let's not do this on the porch. Come inside." Derek followed instantly, grateful for the invitation. Victoria hesitated, then stepped in as if testing unfamiliar ground. Inside, the room was dim but orderly. The photos on the wall, our wedding in Costa Rica, our first home renovation, seemed to watch the scene unfold in silence. "Derek," I said evenly, "go upstairs. I need to speak with your boss alone." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. For once, he obeyed without resistance. When the sound of his footsteps faded, I turned back to her. "You came here to gloat," I said quietly. "But you just walked into a negotiation you can't win." Her confidence faltered. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," I replied. "You wanted control. You wanted to humiliate me. Now, I'm going to show you what real control looks like." Victoria stood motionless as I reached for my phone and unlocked it. "I know what you've done," I said softly. "And not just with Derek." Her arms crossed tighter. "You're bluffing." I opened a folder on my screen. "His name is Marcus Rivera. Former federal investigator. I hired him 6 weeks ago." Her eyes flicked toward the phone. When she saw the first image, her color drained. Photographs. Dates. Financial records. Receipts. Screenshots. All neatly catalogued. Every lie she'd told, every line Derek had repeated, every night she thought no one was watching. "You've been repeating the same pattern for more than a decade," I said. "Different companies, different men, same result, destroyed families, sealed settlements, quiet exits." She tried to speak, but I cut her off. "You built your success on manipulation, and you thought no one noticed. But you made one mistake, you underestimated the woman you tried to humiliate." Her silence was the first real victory I'd felt in months. I placed the phone on the coffee table between us. Here's how this will go, I said evenly. Tomorrow morning, you'll resign. You'll claim it's personal. You'll leave Denver, and you'll stay gone. If you refuse, this file goes to your CEO, the company board, and a journalist who specializes in corporate misconduct. Victoria's composure cracked completely. You can't, this would ruin careers, including Derek's. I met her eyes. You ruined mine first. This is just balance. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, without another word, she walked toward the door. Her heel struck the floor with the precision of retreat. The sound of the latch clicking shut behind her felt like air returning to the room. Derek came downstairs moments later, face pale, voice trembling. What did you say to her? I looked at him, calm as stone. Enough. He started rambling about losing his job, about reputation, about regret. I didn't respond. He wasn't the point anymore, he was a symptom of her reach, and I'd already cured the disease. By sunrise, Victoria Ashford submitted her resignation. But my revenge didn't end with her departure. It was only the opening act of something much larger. Because I wasn't just taking her down privately. I was about to expose her publicly, and make sure no other woman would ever suffer her pattern again. By the next morning, Meridian Pharmaceuticals issued a formal announcement: Victoria Ashford has resigned due to personal reasons. The internal rumor mill exploded. Within days, whispers became headlines. A journalist named David Mitchell, known for investigating corporate misconduct, reached out to Marcus. He wanted details. He wanted truth. At first, I hesitated. Revenge had already done its work. But silence protects predators, not victims. So, I agreed to meet him. I brought everything: photos, financial documents, statements from other women who had suffered under Victoria's so-called mentorship. The article that followed was measured, factual, and devastating. It didn't just expose her, it highlighted how companies like hers enable people like her. The story spread. The women she'd hurt began to contact each other, creating a network of survivors who finally felt seen. Meanwhile, Derek tried to repair what couldn't be repaired. We finalized our divorce 8 months later. He apologized, I accepted, but not for his sake, for my own. Forgiveness, I realized, isn't a gift to the person who failed you. It's permission to stop carrying their mistakes. 2 years later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment overlooking downtown Denver, coffee in hand, city lights flickering like quiet promises. Victoria's message still existed in my phone archives, those 12 words that were meant to break me. But every time I read them, they remind me of something simple. When someone tries to take your peace, let them have the chaos instead. So tell me this: if you were in Natalie's position, would you have stayed silent, or would you have done exactly what she did? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every one. If you believe some lessons have to be taught the hard way, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed, because here on this channel, we don't just tell stories. We remind the world that betrayal has a price, and karma never misses a deadline. See you in the next story, where justice doesn't wait for permission.